We good?
Yeah, we
All
are
right.
live right now. Sorry for the
Hello.
delay.
Hello, everyone. Yes, sorry for the delay. Welcome to the very first episode of Dead Air, where
Yep.
myself, Wayne, and Kyle, the co-creators of Ghost Maps, go behind the scenes and talk about a whole bunch of stuff about ghosts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boo.
Boo. Yes. We'll start by introducing ourselves first. I am Wayne Ray. I am the co-writer of Ghost Maps and co-creator, of course. You might know me for my short story collection, Tales from a Tiny Room. I'm also the co-creator of the comic Mr. Memphis with Benjamin Chi. Ben and I have reunited and we're currently working on our next comic, Work-Life Balance, which very nicely fits into the supernatural theme as well. And I've also contributed to short story collections from the region and internationally as well. This handsome gentleman over here is my partner in crime and I'll let you do the introductions for yourself, Carl.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Winnie. Thanks for the comment. I'm Kyle. I'm a filmmaker first and a podcaster. So I'm really into horror and I love horror.
He is.
Just like Wayne.
He is.
We are not really here to talk about me, but I'm here to talk about ghost stories, right?
We're here to talk about us and the supernatural, Carl.
I guess we are kind of supernatural.
Yeah, we're a bit, yeah. This is what you can expect from the rest of the show, by the way. So,
Yeah.
strap in.
Okay, so just before we start, right? I have a question for everyone.
Oh, wait. Just before we start, Selamat Hari Raya to all our Muslim fans and viewers as well.
Selamat Hari Raya.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yep. So before we begin,
Before we begin,
I want to ask a question. I don't know if any of you watch the show BuzzFeed Unsolved. So, who do you think is the Ryan?
Wow.
Between the two of us.
Okay.
No. Let's let them guess.
I'm just gonna come in right now and say that this took me completely off guard. We did not script this one.
Yeah, we did not script this one.
So yeah. Now I'm kind of curious to see which one of us is the Ryan, which one of us is the Shane.
Yeah, maybe we can find out after the show.
To be fair, we've just started, so I'll give them like till the end of the show at the very least. All right, so we're gonna start things off first by talking about. Hey, Carl, wait. What's today's date? What day is it today?
It's the 13th.
It's the 13th. That's great. But what day is it, Carl?
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday, isn't it? Oh my gosh, Carl, it's the second Thursday of the month. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, we all know what that means. 10 p.m. There's a new episode.
Yes, a new episode of Ghost Maps is going to be online at 10 p.m. today. Today's episode it's going to be set in Singapore. It's going to be set in Lim Chu Kang Cemetery.
Yes.
Lim Chu Kang, right?
Yeah, Lim Chu Kang. For our friends, they are not based in Singapore. Lim Chu Kang is where we bury most of the dead. Almost 100,000 buried souls there. It's one of the older cemeteries that are in Singapore. Some of the other cemeteries are either exhumed or abandoned. So yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so the new episode is going to be Lim Chu Kang Cemetery. It was inspired. Well, okay. Just a little bit just to back up a little bit, for those of you who've never tuned into Ghost Maps before or have heard like a couple of episodes, Ghost Maps is all stories in Ghost Maps are inspired by ghost stories shared with us by friends, family, fans. Don't worry, we will tell you how you can submit a story later on. And this story was shared by Carl, one of your friends, right?
Yes, actually an acquaintance.
Yeah. So the story, here's how Ghost Maps kind of works, where we'll take the basis of the story and we'll sort of like, expand it a little bit, add our own little spin on it. So the stories are, like we said, they're inspired by actual stories told to us and shared with us by people. But, we try to add a little bit of storytelling elements to it as well. So, for example, today's episode, yes, the story as was told to us was set in Lim Chu Kang Cemetery. And yes, the horror elements are more or less the same. the difference is we kind of added in a little bit more elements as well. Like we took some of Kyle's own experiences with the Qingming Festival, because this is set during Qingming Festival.
Yeah.
And we've overlaid it on it as well, and we've included a bit more storytelling elements. So you'll listen to the episode of Ghost Maps, and we've given you a behind the scenes of like, how it works, where it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So, next time you're tuning into an episode of Ghost Maps, listen in and see whether you can figure out how much of it was inspired by the stories that people have shared with us, how much of it is storytelling elements as well. So that's a new episode of Ghost Maps.
Yeah. I'm gonna play the role of facilitator.
Yes, Carl. Please
So
facilitate.
as you guys are watching live or listening live, we are live on Clubhouse, the very pop app these days, and Facebook and YouTube as well.
Yes.
If you have any platforms that you would like us to be on, please let us know. Drop us a message, drop us a comment.
Yeah.
And hi Jolene, and hi Wesley. Roshan, it's a nice name. Roshan, the story hasn't started yet. We're just about to get into it. Sorry for the delay. It's the first episode. It will only get better from here. So
Yeah, we'll figure it out from here.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but as Carl said, please let us know if you want to hear this on other platforms besides Facebook Live, YouTube, and Clubhouse. Because the only reason that Dead Air started is because of demand from you, our listeners, and our fans. We're incredibly lucky in that sense, where we have quite the passionate bunch of fans and quite the vocal bunch of fans as well. And we mean that in the best possible way. A lot of you have asked for live shows similar to this. You're all huge fans of Ghost Maps, and that's great and everything, but you've wanted a little bit more. So that's why Carl and I actually started Dead Air, to give you just like a behind the scenes and a little bit more as well. And this is our first episode, but shall we tease them on what could be coming in the future for Dead Air? Yeah. So, since we're teasing you a little bit about what's coming in the future for Dead Air, what we actually have planned down the road is that we'll get guests to come on the show as well. So it won't just be wonderful people tuning in on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on Clubhouse and everything like that. We'll also have guests coming in, other content creators, other YouTubers, other podcasts coming in, and all these people who don't necessarily who don't necessarily tell stories in the supernatural space. They'll be coming in and they'll be sharing their ghost stories as well. So if not on top of you telling us where else you want to hear this, if there's any guest that you would like to see, let us know. And hey, let them know as well that you would love for them to come onto the show.
Like if you know any of the Southeast Asian podcasters or Southeast Asian content creators that you would like us to talk to, please let them know and let us know, and we'll make it happen.
Yep. But for this first episode, because it is the first episode, we're of course going to be focusing on ourselves. So we'll start talking about, the whole theme of this episode is talking about where Carl and I started. And it's where we started in terms of horror, because Carl talks about like how he's a massive horror fan.
Yeah.
And that is 100% true. I can guarantee you on that. Multiple DVDs, which I'm sorry, Carl, I still haven't watched yet. But he shared with me multiple DVDs of horror movies that he's recommended. And when it comes to stuff like supernatural lore, a lot of the times he's the go-to guy as well. But what we wanted to do was get into the details of how both Carl and I started on horror. And we figured that the best place to start is the first horror movie that we've ever watched.
Oh yeah. Jesus.
Kyle, I feel like you should start just based on your exclamation. Do you want to start or shall I go ahead?
Okay, I think yeah. Let me address the comments. Hi Nadia, thanks Wesley. We will stay spooky and awesome as always. Thanks for the support. I hope to see you in the next one. Russell Lee, yes. Russell Lee, if you're watching this, big fans. The reason why we started this podcast, I mean, Ghost Maps in general, is partly because of you.
Yep.
Remember reading your storybooks when I was a kid, instead of studying. Super terrified to go to the toilet after that, but worth it.
Stay in school, kids.
Yeah,
stay in school.
And there's a fun trivia to Ghost Maps is that if you look at our name, it's Ghost Maps: True Southeast Asia Stories. It's actually a tribute and a nod to true Singapore ghost stories.
Yes.
But we are very inclusive. So Southeast Asia represents. C represent, yo.
Exactly.
Once we can travel, we will collect even more ghost stories. Yeah. So thanks AC. Sending love to Philippines. Okay, so
awesome.
first horror. Okay, it's a 2-part story.
Wow.
Okay, I was 5, right? And I accidentally stumbled upon a really, really gore Thai film that my dad was watching. Don't ask why. My dad was I guess my dad was into horror as well, but he didn't do really much PG. I mean, love you, Dad, but you just let me watch lah. So I just sat there and watched. I was super terrified. It was almost like Human Centipede kind of level, but I didn't understand. I did not understand what was it. Being 5 years old, and then fast forward. I think at the age of 7, I think I watched The Exorcist. I don't recall if it's the first one. If that snuff film when I watched when I was 5, that gore Thai film was considered horror, then that would be the first one. But I believe the very, very first Thai film, the very, very first Thai film, the very, very first horror film that I watched was The Exorcist. Then the reason I keep mentioning Thai because the next film that I watched was actually Peanut, the Thai one.
I remember that one.
Yeah. That was quite creepy because there was this scene where like the lady was like knocking. They were like the monk were like destroying the skull of the ghost. I had nightmares of that for like months.
When did hang on? When did Peanut come out?
90s.
Well, now I feel old. Thank you.
Let's not talk about age.
No. Let's not talk
because
about
ghost stories is actually timeless.
Ageless. Yes.
Thanks, Lena. Thanks for the support.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Oh yeah, my turn.
I always love when Wayne tells his.
Carl loves the story.
Yep.
And I'm laughing. I just to be fair, I was laughing just now when Carl. Wait, hold on. Before I get to my story, do you remember the name of the Thai horror film, the first one?
Peanut.
No, not Peanut. You said there was one that your dad was watching. And then
I don't remember. That's the thing.
Okay.
It was during the age of pirated VCDs, right?
Which I'm sure your dad didn't partake in. I'm sure he bought it legally.
I'm sure he bought it legally. Sorry, IMDA.
No. Okay. No. I was laughing just now because Kyle was mentioning like the first horror film that he watched was The Exorcist, and Kyle loves the story because I've told it to him so many times. I was 5 years old. And I've told the story multiple times on like when we were interviewed and everything, but I never get tired. I've even told this story for I'm trying to remember. I think it was Singapore Writers Festival. There's actually a video of me telling the story on Singapore Writers Festival. So the story as it goes is I was 5, and my brother said, "Hey, come and watch this movie with me," and I asked him what it was about. And he said, "Oh, it's a bit like the Terminator."
Yeah.
And that movie was The Exorcist. So I'm 5, and I keep thinking, "Ooh, there's going to be robots in this. This is going to be great." And it starts off in like, I think it was Iraq on an archaeological dig. Iraq or Iran, I can't remember which
it's one of those Middle
East countries where the movie starts in, and it's an archaeological dig, and I'm thinking to myself, so it's going to be like Terminator and Indiana Jones. Great! Then the movie keeps going and going. Then they find the Ouija board, and it keeps going. And this, I will demonstrate this to you. So this is how I was reacting to the movie as it kept going on. So this is me, okay? So there I am.
For those that are on Clubhouse, Wayne was leaning back.
I was leaning back. My eyes kept going wider and wider. Yeah. And I looked, basically, if you're on Clubhouse and you're not watching the video, I looked exactly like how you expect a 5-year-old child to look while he's watching The Exorcist. So eventually, I think it was about like halfway or 3/4 of the way through the movie, I just turned to my brother and I go, "This is not like Terminator, is it?"
Talk about commitment.
I know. And I was already like about halfway through the movie. So I ended up like staying throughout the whole... I had to stay throughout the whole movie by that point.
Yeah.
I always like the thing I added in for the Singapore Writers Festival was that as mildly traumatizing as this was for a 5-year-old child to watch The Exorcist, and bear in mind this was like the late 80s, so chances are it was probably like a censored version of it, but still quite traumatizing for a child. Something you should never show to a 5-year-old.
And the fact that he could find a VCD, right?
No, oh Kyle, I'm gonna show my age now. No, it was a VHS.
Oh, I tried.
It was a VHS. I'm not fooling anyone. You can clearly see the grey hair on my head. And on the face.
Yep.
But yeah, no. So it was. I could not stop watching it, and like, I mean I'm gonna tie this back to the whole like storytelling element of Ghost Maps, and I will say that I brought this up in the Writers Festival as well. Prior to that, I had seen like, you'd seen as a kid, you've seen Star Wars, and like I think I watched like no, this is before Batman. Like the old Christopher Reeve Superman movie. So like for me, great. Those movies all had, compelling stories and spectacle. But like the key emotion I took from those stories was always excitement.
Yeah.
But for something like The Exorcist, I think that's probably one of the very first times ever that I realized a story could scare me that bad. Like a film could scare me that bad. And I think from there it kind of like I always say that Carl's the bigger horror fan, but as much as I think Carl consumes more horror than I do, I think we both have this appreciation for what horror can do.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm gonna blabber on and everything. So but that I like to blabber on. But I think that was it for me. Like I remember, I don't think I ever gave you the postscript for this one, Carl. But like 1 or 2 years later, my brother, me not learning my lesson clearly, we watched The Shining together.
Yep.
Which, mildly less traumatizing than The Exorcist, but slightly more entertaining. And I think The Exorcist kind of numbed me for horror, almost in that weird sense, where the fear was at least somewhat muted.
That light flickering scene, where you see the face.
Oh my god, yeah.
Jesus. For those who have not watched it, please watch it. It's a cult classic.
It's way more than a cult classic.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic movie, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think so that was my second. My second was The Shining, but I think since we're Ghost Maps through Southeast Asian horror, I think the first Asian horror film in general that I saw, or at least the one that I remember the most, definitely not the first, but I think the one that I remember the most was probably Shutter.
Oh yeah, Shutter. Everybody remember Shutter?
Yeah.
My back ache.
See whether anybody's...
like when you watch the movie and then you're like, oh, I got backache. Then your friend starts messing with you. Oh, there could be someone sitting.
But like that, I remember thinking to myself, this is it, and it's one of those things again where, and it's something I think that, and we'll get into this a little bit more later on, but it's, by the way, anybody who's tuning in now, wherever you're tuning in, whether it's like Facebook Live, YouTube, or Clubhouse, and I know I've said this several times already on all the places that you're tuning in, but wherever you're tuning in from, if you want to tell us about your first horror movies and everything, shout out down there as well. This is, yes, we're talking, and yes, it's like a nice casual format.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, the whole point of this is so that we can interact with you guys even more than just like, the comments on our videos, which are great. Yeah. But we wanna speak to you guys a whole lot more as well. So please jump in and feel free to turn this into a proper discussion.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking of discussion, right, there are a couple of comments. Kid Amador said Nang Nak. Yes, Peanut is actually the comedy version of Nang Nak. Yes, it's Nang Nak. It's really messed up.
Really?
The story is, I mean, for me, I feel that it's really messed up because he actually made out with the ghost and he ate whatever the ghost feed. I think it was rats or something. It's really messed up. Nazril, hi guys, huge fan of your podcast. Always, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Nazril. We do it because we love horror and we love you guys. Hi Jolene, Alexandra. Ryan Scarlett, no, you're not really late. We are late. Sorry for that.
Wait. I want to address Ryan's second comment. Is Wayne the narrator of the Ghost Maps?
Okay.
Kyle,
Wayne, you do the impression.
From the top.
I think
from the top.
Yeah.
Ghost Maps. Wait. Ghost Maps. Entry 35.
Does it sound like him?
Does it sound like me? Does it sound
How
like
about me?
no.
Ghost Maps. Entry 35.
No. Okay.
No,
let's,
okay. Let's not mess with the fans. Okay, we are not the narrators. We are obviously not cool enough to be the narrators.
No, I do appreciate Ryan. By the way, I do appreciate
yeah.
you thinking that I was the narrator because.
He's not gonna stop talking about it now.
No, I'm not gonna stop talking about a lot of things. I like to talk. But some of the weirdest compliments that we've gotten from our fans, and don't get me wrong, we definitely appreciate this. But I've heard several fans tell us that, oh yeah, I listen to your podcast when I want to relax, which is a strange thing to say about a horror podcast. But apparently, our narrator's voice is so soothing that despite the actual content of the podcast, they somehow find it relaxing. I suppose maybe their older siblings made them watch The Exorcist when they were 5 as well.
So how many of you actually listen to our Ghost Map podcast to sleep?
Yeah.
Please let us know. I think it will be quite interesting. I think sleep scientists will find that fascinating.
I just want to say I'm quite sure we have the market cornered on horror ASMR.
Yep.
Yeah.
Team says that he loves our podcast. Thank you so much. Please let us know, like, what kind of stories you want to hear, and we'll try to source them. The reason that it takes a while for us to produce, because we produce, as you could hear, the quality is really high, produce high quality content, and we actually find real horror stories. Of course, we have to script it and narrate it.
Yeah. So
this takes times, and we are constantly working out to get horror stories. The two of us, we are known to our friends as the people who actually, hey, you got ghost stories. Please share with me your ghost stories. Then we whip out a recorder and do the research and stuff.
It's actually quite hilarious how many people we know have gone like, hey, I told somebody to share their ghost story with you. I told somebody to share their ghost.
Yeah.
Which is like we started this. Correct me if I'm wrong, September 2019, right?
Yes.
Which means that we're approaching
2 years.
our second year doing this, which is bizarre and wonderful for us.
Yeah.
But when we first started, we literally were just approaching friends and family to give us their ghost stories and everything.
But now it's...
Yeah. I mean, some of these stories are actually inspired by things that happened to us as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, over time, it's a testament to how much we appreciate the fans and the listeners and the word of mouth, because most of our content now, most of our episodes are inspired by stories shared with us by fans. And I think like the furthest away from Singapore that we've gotten so far, probably around Thailand, Philippines, around there. So
I'm still hoping for Japan. I mean, even though they are not Southeast
I don't.
Asia,
Yeah.
but
Japan,
Japan's cool, man.
We
I do have my stories from Japan. From my travels, so I can get into that later. So moving on for the comments. Nadia says original Shutter's the best. I love that she actually pointed out original Shutter. Yes, the proper Thailand one is the real one. There is no American version. I do not accept any American remakes of classic horrors. So
Kyle,
yes,
Kyle, what are you talking about? There was only one version of Shutter. Yes. I don't know what you're talking about.
Tim Simon said favorite story was grandma becoming the pocong. Oh yeah, that's
oh man,
that's really messed up. Actually.
Yeah,
it's actually submitted by one of our listeners. So thank you to whoever submitted. Was it Fidaus? I think it was.
I can't remember who it was, but somebody they probably credited in the YouTube version as well.
We need to
Yes.
Any Ju-on fans? Me. Our tech crew is really creeped out right now. Out of frame.
Honest to God, I thought for a second there, Carl was just like trying to figure out his answer, so he's like, I was like, all right.
But I mean, if you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, then that's too bad. Good evening, Russ Wong. Wow, this is a lot of comments.
Oh wow.
So they actually replied us. So Winnie says that she actually listens to our podcast. I don't know how to feel about that, but thank you.
Hey, look, I'm quite sure our narrator takes it as a compliment that his voice is that relaxing.
Yeah. So AC said that the voice is smoothing, but how about ours? Is our voice smoothing as well?
Probably not. To be fair, neither of us are narrators, so probably not as soothing.
Well, we're podcasters now.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, okay, we'll move on from horror stories. Keep them coming though. If you've got favorite horror stories, keep them coming in the comments. But in the meantime, Kyle and I will move on from fiction to our reality. Kyle,
Yes.
What's your first actual horror experience?
Okay, so we are telling horror stories about music. We will improve on that in the next episode. For Dead Air, we will add music for background music.
Do you want me to do the music?
No. that will be a horror story.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay, so my very, very first experience with the supernatural was actually... I've never... Okay, so to set the context, I've never really been a religious person. I'm always like between free thinker and an agnostic, right? Never really been religious, Then I remember going on a trip to Malacca. So there's only one hotel that Singaporeans would stay. Most Singaporeans would stay. It's a very, very famous hotel. I mean, you can just Google Malacca nice hotel. It will probably be one of the first search. So we stayed in that, and I swear to God, the whole hotel was mostly filled with Singaporeans. So this was what, like about 14 years ago. So I remember going into the hotel room, and then there's this belief where when you go into a hotel room, you should knock so that whatever's living in the hotel room will actually come out, right? And then ask for permission to stay. So the belief is, I don't know if this is just a Chinese thing or is this an Asian thing. The belief is that empty spaces tend to attract supernatural beings to stay because there's no yang energy, right? So there's no human energy, so they can actually stay there. Especially dark places. So hotels are actually one of them. So I did not knock the door, and I was super tired from the bus ride from Singapore. So I just opened the door and went in. And I was staying with my cousin, and my cousin is the same age as me. And so 2 14-year-olds staying in a hotel room by their own, on their own, what could go wrong, right? Nothing. So I just went to bed immediately, like at 3 in the afternoon. I just lied down for a nap while he just sat there and did what he did. And my cousin, he's one of those super intellectual kids. So he's all logical, he leads a relatively decent life. So he has his own room, right, as a kid. So he has never been afraid of the dark. Well, for me, when growing up, I was a chicken shit, right? So I slept in the same room as my sister while I was growing up, right? So I had someone to depend on when it comes to the dark. But he didn't. So he was more logical, and his parents were like kind of atheists. So he's not afraid of ghosts. So I'm afraid of ghosts, but I'm not sure if they existed. So we stayed in the far end corner of the corridor. I remember it was, I think, level 14 of that hotel. Far end corner, just beside a fire exit. So there were no rooms beside us on the left. On the right there were, but they were all empty. Because I checked, because I asked. So after what happened, then because I went with my uncle and auntie to Malacca, so and it was like a multiple family trip, so they were staying on the other side of the floor. I don't know why they put us in the corner, just 2 kids. What could go wrong, right? So nothing happened in the day. So when I went back after the tourist thing at about 9, showered, went to bed straight with my cousin. My cousin was sleeping on the right side of the bed, closest to the toilet. I was sleeping on the left side of the bed, closest to the window and facing a fucking mirror. Sorry for straying. So
so this podcast is rated NC-16.
No. I'm gonna bleep it out. The live is not, but the Spotify version is probably. So I was facing a mirror. And my cousin had the bright idea to switch off all the lights in the room because he can't sleep with lights on. And I'm a chicken shit, right? So I need lights, but I don't have lights. So anyway, I was falling asleep, and then I started hearing flushing noises from the toilet. Yep. Because I was chicken shit, so I went back to on the toilet light. So apparently that was a bad idea. Let me put it in context. So when you stay in a room, supposedly if there are spirits, right, you're supposed to actually switch off the toilet light so that they can actually hide in there while you, if they're still around, while you're perusing in the room, right? So I broke the rule by not knocking. I broke the rule by switching on the lights. They have nowhere to go, so they started messing with me.
Wait, hang on. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. So, just to be clear, if you're using the washroom, you can switch on the lights.
I guess you can.
But if you're not using the washroom, you're not supposed to switch on the lights.
Not making fun of any
Wait,
supernatural...
we're not. I'm genuinely want to know.
Not making fun of any supernatural entities. I'm pretty sure the logic is that if you don't switch off the light, you'll pee everywhere and you'll get some on them. So, common courtesy, right?
No, it's fair.
So, back to the story. And I started hearing flushing noises. I started hearing people walking around in the toilet. I was like, could it be the next door? And then the logic starts coming in. Even as at a 14-year-old, you try the logic, that thing when you first experience it. It's like, can't be what? It's so near. And my cousin is like sleep. Like he's like dead. He's like asleep. Like he can hear it. I can hear like flushing noises, shower tap opening. I mean turning on and stuff. Like there was, as if there was someone showering lah, quote unquote showering. So it kept going and coming and going. So I was falling in and out of sleep. And to the point where I woke up and I didn't see anything. I looked at the mirror, I was like, oh shit, I'm not going to look at the mirror. So I turned sideways. And there was this like bedside lamp on my left. So I didn't want to look at that. So I took my wallet. And my wallet, you know, like any typical Singaporean, you have like a talisman. I took out the wallet and started praying. It didn't help. It didn't help. I didn't pray out loud. I prayed in my mind. I'm like, hey, don't disturb me. I'm just here for one night. It didn't go away until 5 a.m. And I fell asleep at 5. I remember I checked my phone. Yeah, it was one of those shitty Nokia phones. So next day, we went down for breakfast and I was super pale, apparently. And my aunt asked me, and my aunt is the more inclined to believe in the supernatural lah. Even though the husband is a hardline atheist, right? So my uncle heard is that there's no such thing as ghosts. I'm like, I'm really terrified. I couldn't sleep, and I was telling my cousin everything, and they were like, no such thing as ghosts. That it bothered me for the whole day. So it was really bad. Like I could feel the chills even under the hot sun in Malacca. If you've been to Malacca during June, it's super hot. So I was really scared. And I dreaded going back to the hotel room at night. So I begged my uncle and auntie, said, hey, can you guys like at least wait for me to sleep before you all go back to your room, because you guys are adults. Chicken shit lah. Then they so they said, no, we're not gonna do that. You are an adult. You're supposed to deal with this. So sleep in our room, and we will sleep in your room to prove to you that there is no such thing as ghosts. And my aunt was super nice. My aunt actually waited until I fell asleep before she went back to her own room. So nothing happened after that. I don't know. Like I mean, I believe that there was something there. Like taps don't on their own, and it's like multiple times. Like Jesus, like why would I make something up, right? And it was the whole night. That was horrible. It was horrible. I was like, I don't care if it's it's a 5-star hotel, right? Or 5 or 4-star hotel. I don't care if it's near to the city center. I'm never staying in that hotel anymore. Oh, and I also mentioned that there were like footsteps going to the staircase. So it's a fire exit, so does not make sense, right? So maybe the spirits wanted to go to the fire exit, so they go through our room and then like, hey, let's mess with this kid that messed with us. I don't know. Like, yeah. But it's a super long story.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Between the two of us, I'm probably going to be the one that talks a whole lot more anyway. So it's good that you're getting that out as well.
Yeah.
14, really? I kind of assumed that you had something that happened to you like earlier on.
Oh yeah. I had, but you see that is, it's very personal.
Okay, no. Yeah.
But it's also really, really strange. So I still wasn't sure whether it was my first sighting of the ghost. So like almost 20 years ago, my grandpa passed away, and shortly after the funeral, I slept in his room, like where he used, because he stayed with us. So my dad was sleeping with me, and I was like, what, probably like, I mean, I'm not going to reveal my age. Like, I was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
What, you don't know. So, then, I heard funeral noises, like, at 3 a.m. in the morning. Like, I heard, like loud funeral noises. And it was shortly after he passed. I as a kid, you don't understand this kind of thing. And very strangely, the first thought in my mind was not ghost. What was the first thought? Oh, I woke up, I can eat hot dog. I don't know why. I clearly remember this in my memory. And then the second thing that I did was to call my dad to bring me to eat hot dog. I called my dad. And then he said no. I'm like, okay, go back to sleep. Okay. He said, it's like 3. Okay. Then I remember I stood up. It was a bed on the back of, so where you are lying, the pillow is actually a window, and on the window is one of those really old air cons that is, used to be on window ledge.
Yeah.
One of those. And then on top of the window ledge, you can see some of the glass, and guess what I saw? A face. And it wasn't any face. It was a face of a Caucasian woman. And it's really strange. And the Caucasian woman was just like leaning on the glass, like staring at me. And I got shocked, and I can still hear the funeral music. And for some strange reason, I mean, I didn't know who she was lah, but the face clearly resembled Mila Jovovich. Yeah, that actress.
Yes. What?
Or maybe she
What?
just have one of those really typical Caucasian faces. I mean, no offense to fans, but
What?
she did destroy one of my favorite movies franchise, Resident Evil lah.
It's okay, Carl, it's
I
okay.
really, yeah. But anyway, so that's really strange. So I actually I don't believe that it was a supernatural thing. I think it was just dreams, because it's too nonsensical. Who wakes up, hear funeral music, wakes up and is like, hey, I want to eat hot dog? That's really strange, right?
Well, okay.
And I can remember that as clearly as the Malacca one.
See, you waking up, hearing funeral music and thinking, I want to have hot dogs, right? That I can believe. The Caucasian face, when you're talking about like how, your grandfather just passed away and everything, then suddenly you get haunted by Caucasian. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yep.
But, okay. Fair enough.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, okay, before we move on to your story, let's read some of the comments. Keep the engagement up, yo.
Yes.
So, now we have about 29 viewers and one listener on Clubhouse. Thanks, Clubhouse. Okay, Ryan said, wait, so no one knows who the narrator is? My curiosity. Okay, I hope that nobody thinks that Ghost Maps is actually really one person going around recording voices with studio quality mics in coffee shops. I'll put it as that, but I can also say that if you guys ask hard enough, maybe we'll get the narrator on Russell Lee style.
Oh yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say, okay? Winnie said there are some Singaporean Malaysian ghost stories on Reddit. Yeah, I actually read them. We really contemplated on, like just taking the stories and crediting them, but that didn't have the human touch. No pun intended, right? Because we wanted to interact with that individual to actually experience what he or she felt. Like how I just shared my horror stories. Yeah. You can never get that through text. I think it's really, really, or through a Reddit post, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be a conversation. You need to ask the person questions before you actually, finish the story.
And don't get me wrong, like some of the submissions that we've gotten have been through text as well. And I think at the very least, when we started, we felt like it needed to be like, a kind of story that we had face to face. But I think over time, and I think because our fans kind of understand what Ghost Maps is about, all the submissions that we've gotten through text kind of know what we're looking for in the story as well, like the certain kind of details, stuff like how you felt, stuff like what did you think it was that you saw, that kind of thing. So we're very lucky in that sense with our fans, where even the submissions through text have been detailed enough where it feels like we're conducting
super
an interview.
detailed, like it's down to like the sofa, like the colors, which is what Wayne likes to say, like things that you gloss over, like the hot dog, are important points. Yeah, to making the story real.
I have learned more about you today than I thought I would.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Jolene said that, have we ever been concerned about superstitions that came with the ghost stories you have gotten? I don't really understand that question. So are you asking?
Kind of do. I think she's asking like, are we concerned about and Jolene, correct us if we're wrong. Are we concerned about like the effects of receiving these stories, the effects of telling these stories in a way? Do you want to take this one or?
I'll take the first part.
Yeah.
I guess the practical point is that, are we pantan?
Yes.
Are we scared that bad things might happen? Actually, no. These are just stories, right? I can't say that we are non-believers, but I also can't say that we are believers. It's like always 50-50. There can never be a point where something just pops out, hey, I'm real. Like, I hope that doesn't happen to me, but I'm just saying that that's not within our reality. And that's why we don't do ghost hunting. I did that before. I mean, it didn't end well. Maybe I'll share the stories in the future. Never ever go mess with something that you do not understand, or we as a society have not actually understood it as a whole, as a society. So I guess that's my answer to your question.
I kind of want to add on to that one also, because like we get asked the question a lot, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in supernatural? And we always give the same answer. I mean, like, you know, it seems like the very diplomatic answer, but it's nice that it's also how we genuinely feel. And how we genuinely feel is, it's not important to us whether, I mean, it's our concern is not whether ghosts are real or not. That shouldn't be what you're asking us. What we truly believe in is the power of these stories. But that said, like, talking about like the superstitions that come with these stories and stuff like that, and whether we're worried whether anything will happen to us, I think what's most important is that, and this, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I work with Carl, but one of the main reasons is that he's somebody who, and we both agree on this, we have to be very respectful of these kind of things. Like, it, whether you believe it or not. And I'm just gonna like go off on a whole thing now. So sorry Carl, if I'm gonna like talk a whole lot now, but we both feel, and we'll get into this a bit more later on as well, but one of the reasons why we started Ghost Maps was that we feel that, you know, this supernatural and you know, these spirits and these creatures and all that, they're so entrenched in Southeast Asian culture. Like, whether you are a believer or not almost seems irrelevant, because it's so much a part of who we are regionally as this big old Southeast Asian society. It's very much entrenched in that. Like, you know, you go to Thailand, you go to the Philippines, you go to Malaysia, Indonesia, and our stories are very similar. Like, they each have their own local flavor, obviously, but like, you know, there's lots of similarities on there, and it kind of ties us to, it's, if you want to get sentimental, it kind of ties us all together in this region. So for us, like, it's one of those things where, because you've grown up with this, whether you believe it or not, for us, it's a case of, look, if you want to tell these stories, first of all, as storytellers ourselves, it's most important to us that we treat the stories with the best of our abilities. We create the stories with the best of our abilities. But because we're inspired by other people's stories, we have to respect the storytellers, the people who told us those stories. And we have to respect, you know, the culture around it. So I think, whether we're concerned about like the superstitions that come with telling these stories and all that, yes, we are, but we are not out of fear. We are out of respect
and fascination
and reverence to this culture. And I think
hope it goes on.
And
that's why we started Ghost Maps. We wanted the tradition of telling, you know, orally telling ghost stories, like, you know, being in like a school camp, being in, I mean, in the military, even being in like as friends, like in the office, like, hey, you know, right, like the 13th floor, and it's like there's this ghost, you know, things like that. Don't go to the toilet after 7, you know. I think you get that as Southeast Asian, as Asians. I think that's really, really powerful. Like, walking at night and then you smell frangipani, you'll be like, holy, what's that? Everybody will get the same reaction. But if you do that in, for example, New York, you'll be the weirdo. You're like, what you smelling? No, there's no such thing. You know, there's no frangipani, you know. So I think this is uniquely Asian. That's what we're trying to say, right?
I think it's uniquely Asian, and I think because, you know, we're Asian, and it's our culture. And that's not to say like if we're taking from some other culture, we wouldn't be respectful. But I think,
of course,
we're more aware of the kind of respect that these stories deserve. So I think, I almost feel like, you know, fear of these superstitions would come if we were being exploitative. Is that the right word for? I don't know why I'm pronouncing it.
I mean, we're not pointing fingers, but we do it with respect.
Respect. Yeah,
in
I think that's
short.
the keyword. I mean, I just went on a long whole tangent, but basically it boils down onto that.
No lah, you're the writer for the reason.
Well,
he could write a 10,000 word thesis on this.
Clearly I'm not the
think
summarizer lah.
Even more lah. So let's answer a couple of questions.
Yes. Yeah.
Kid Amador asks, what's the difference between Ghost Maps and We Are HANTU? Okay, maybe I'll let you answer this since you like
Really?
talking.
I thought you were taking as well. Okay. So We Are HANTU. Oh wait, show the t-shirt.
Yeah.
Show the t-shirt. So don't worry, we'll pimp our merchandise later on as well. But We Are HANTU is the overall. Well, HANTU itself is the overall company that Kyle and I have founded. We're looking at creating stories across all mediums. I haven't even gotten to my own horror experience yet, but what say we just jump ahead to why we started Ghost Maps in the first place? Because I'm gonna just like.
I mean, we
this has kind of been bleeding into that.
We did talk about it. Maybe we just talk about like what's the difference lah.
Yeah. So HANTU overall is the company that the two of us and another friend of ours started together, and we want to produce Southeast Asian horror content that we feel is up to the level of quality that we feel that these stories deserve.
Yeah.
Ghost Maps started because, well, it was for a number of reasons, but basically Ghost Maps was the first thing that we produced, and Ghost Maps is the foundation of the company that is HANTU, or We Are HANTU.
Yep.
But it's not going to be the only thing we produce. Dead Air kind of spins off of Ghost Maps, but it's kind of its own thing as well. But we've got other plans as well. We don't mean to be like vague and teasing about it, but a lot of these plans are currently in the works, so we're not going to talk about them just yet. But we will say that there are other projects coming up from HANTU in the future, and
They are watchable.
what are you talking about?
You can watch them somewhere.
Watch. Kyle, what are you insinuating when you say what? Well, I don't know why we're whispering now. So, but so we're coming up with future projects, but Ghost Maps will still be ongoing.
So Ghost Maps will run till either one of us bite the dust. Hopefully.
See, he said either one of us, but there's still a possibility that it might carry on.
So so basically, We Are HANTU, or HANTU in short, is actually We Are HANTU is actually the tag name for our company, HANTU. So HANTU is the company that produces Ghost Maps and now Dead Air as well, and any other future content. So think of us as a channel that has many, many shows, right? This is just the start.
Ooh, look at you with your teasing voice. But yeah, so that's the difference. Do we like other questions? Should we jump into those?
No, actually we have one which is quite funny. Nadia said that she's too chicken shit to watch Ju-on. Same, my brother. Same. I mean, I wouldn't watch Ju-on now alone at night. I think I will get. But then again, I just played Resident Evil Village. It is scary at some point, really scary. I managed to power through it, so yep. Roshan said that I got into horror story and paranormal when I was 7 and incident had suicide right beside my room. It's very unfortunate. For people who struggle with mental illness, please do not think that suicide is actually a way out. It is not. Please value your life. Suicide is something that is very, very serious. Please talk to someone or reach out for help. We wouldn't want to tell. This is where we draw the boundaries. We don't talk about this kind of stories where it's a bit too much, especially in this climate as well. Yeah. But you have a very, very fascinating sense of macabre. I've seen a couple of them myself. I just say that it does have a toll on you lah. So AC, the belief of empty space attracts energy is pretty common in Asia. Yeah, I guess so. It's all about energy, right, in Asia.
I've never actually heard that one before.
Like,
but
it is like even in Japan.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of there's whole different cultures. So I'm not surprised that I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. Bolty, I remember you, Bolty. I've been the one who has been replying to your comments on YouTube, by the way. Who tells the story? We do. I mean, metaphorically, I record and produce the episodes. He writes the episodes.
Yeah.
And then we have someone secret to voice it. And this someone secret, if you guys ask hard enough, he will come on the show as like Russell Lee.
Yeah. We can tell you right now, the narrator is not Russell Lee. That much we can tell you.
Wow. I don't think we have heard Russell Lee's voice.
Nah, well, that's the thing. I'm sure he's done events before, but I don't know whether it was his voice with these guys.
Nazril says that his favorite episode was the Pontiac. Oh yeah, Jesus. Yeah, that was creepy.
Hey, God, just get his name right. Nazril?
Yeah.
Thus far, personally, my favorite episode, that one.
Yeah, it has a special connection. I mean, it was actually my dad's story lah.
Yeah.
So just sharing it out there.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna jump in a little bit more behind the scenes on this one. So Kyle and I, if you're not from, if you're one of our listeners and or you're one of the people tuning in today who's not from Singapore, a lot of Singaporean ghost stories come from national servicemen, and we've been very picky, I would say, in terms of, because there's a lot of those stories to the point in time where
usually it's the same.
Well, usually it's the same thing, but also at the same time, we almost felt like, look, if we can't tell something different, then there's no sense in us retelling a story that almost everybody has heard.
Yeah.
So a lot of these stories revolve around Pulau Tekong, which is where like there's a camp down there as well, and they revolve around the camp's ghost stories. But what I especially loved about those stories were these stories came from a time before there was a camp there, and it touches a little bit on the history of the island Pulau Tekong as well. So for me, it was taking a familiar setting for a lot of Singaporean ghost stories and sort of looking at it in a very different way. So for me personally, that's definitely one of my favorite ones as well.
Yeah. So I can't say that's my favorite, but that is definitely, like, I mean, the 3 generations of ghost stories is definitely on my top list.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is actually the World War II one. The World War II one is really like, I mean, who doesn't like supernatural beings when they start slapping like oppressive people around? Yeah, I think that's really nice, right? Boti says that he has, I mean, I'm assuming he has a huge mirror facing his bed.
Oh, lovely. I remember, like, I was never terrified of mirrors. Like, going back a little bit to the horror movie side of things, I was never terrified of mirrors until I saw Candyman. Have you seen Candyman?
No.
So it's the one where you're supposed to say the guy's name 3 times in the mirror at night with the lights off, and then he'll appear behind you and kill you.
American, is it?
Yeah, it's an American film. And like, I don't remember the rest of that movie. I just remember a bit where one of the characters is standing in front of the mirror and she says Candyman 3 times, and then the guy appears behind her and then kills her. So I, like, if I go back and watch it now, probably I won't be as frightened of it as I was when I was a kid. But I remember that was the first time I was like, mirrors, no, not gonna look at them. Which I suppose ties into the fact that, like, you know, one of my favorite horror creatures, I guess, is the whole idea of the doppelganger.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, doppelgangers creep me the heck out. Like that whole idea that, you know, if when you see, and I've talked about this. I think I talked about this recently at like a talk that we had at Crane, where the idea of the doppelganger freaks me out. Like, this whole idea of seeing yourself and then knowing that you're gonna die after that. I don't know why.
What if it's a dead person that you saw?
If it actually was another dead person, then I'll be just thinking to myself, wow, he really looks like me. But, like, you know, it's like I don't know what it is about it that creeps me out so much. But yeah, doppelgangers just creep me out.
Yeah. I mean, quick short story. So I think there was a time where my friend actually saw a doppelganger of his friend when they came back from fishing.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was actually talking to that guy, that thing, and then his friend was at the back. Then his friend was too tired, like, he's after late night fishing, was too tired to bother with him. Then he just left him talking to that thing. And he didn't realize that his friend was talking to air. His friend thought he was talking to him, but he was ignoring him because it's late night. I don't know, but I think it seems a little bit weird to just let your friend talk to the air. Yeah, they only realize after
if you're
the
really
next day,
tired.
yeah. So yeah, doppelgangers are actually very creepy, especially the ones that you see two of them, you don't know which one is human. That's really.
Yeah, okay.
So Winnie says that it's clearer who is the Ryan Bugara. Am I Brian Bugara? I hope I'm not Ryan Bugara because Ryan Bugara is a chicken shit.
Hey, I'm probably the Ryan Bugara here.
Okay, I'm not saying that I'm fearless. I'm just saying that I'm quite logical.
I will say this. If you tune into Ghost Maps on YouTube, all episodes on YouTube are accompanied by these wonderfully creepy visuals that Kyle goes out to shoot.
Yeah.
And I never follow him.
Yep. You never follow.
He tried at the start. He really did. He was like, "Wait, I'm gonna go shoot the visuals for like the new episode tonight. You wanna follow me? It's this abandoned like dirt road like in the middle of nowhere. And if we die down there, nobody will find our bodies for the next 3 weeks." And naturally, I just go, "No, you're on your own. No, I'm not following you."
Yeah,
and he's like, "Okay."
I didn't say the death thing lah.
He didn't say that one. I'm exaggerating just a little bit lah.
He's exaggerating. But I go to places like Old Changi Hospital lah, which is infamous.
Yeah, okay. I thank you for shooting our visuals.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you have stopped asking me to follow you.
Yep.
I genuinely appreciate it.
So Boti says that can we do the voice of the guy who... Okay, this is the last time we're going to do it for this stream. Just for you guys. Okay, maybe you do the Ghost Maps thing first.
Alright, fine. Ghost Maps. Entry 35. Lim Chu Kang. Singapore.
Ghost Maps. Entry 35. Lim Chu Kang. Singapore. Obviously, it's not either of us.
Okay.
We already said but it's always fun. Every time we are editing it, I always do that to learn how he does it. So wait. Look, it's 10:05. Please don't leave the stream. But our new episode is out, so you can watch this after 11.
Oh,
you can watch our new episode or listen to our new episode if you're on Clubhouse or Spotify or wherever podcast is.
Yes.
So, Poti says that he used to live in a haunted house. I hope you're not living in a haunted house anymore because that's not cool. And Brunei is pretty scary. I've been there.
Oh yeah.
Pretty scary. Team Simon, wait, stupid question. No, we don't conduct... Well, actually, we don't really conduct ghost story. I did get... Actually, I did, but not like the kopitiam visuals that you see in Ghost Maps. But I did conduct a couple of ghost story sessions from friends who wanted to stay anonymous, so we didn't credit them or anything. Yeah, but we did do that. But most of the time, it's just chit chat, and we will record it, and then after that, we will just write it. Jen Lewis, thank you for the love from the USA. NC, where's NC?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jen Lewis, but North Carolina.
All right.
That's not North Carolina. Kyle.
Sorry.
That's the specific state of Matthew McConaughey. Jen, please, if first of all, thank you so much for listening to us all the way from North Carolina. If it's North Carolina, if I'm not getting that wrong, if you can, just tell us what you think about the Southeast Asian horror.
Oh yeah,
because it's we're very fascinated by people's point of view of Southeast Asian horror from outside of Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to some people before, and they their reactions have always been, it's varied from like fascination to like genuine fear to outright confusion.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, so this ghost does what? With the what? I don't why? Huh?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to hear what what people outside of Southeast Asia, or I mean, if you've not spent any time in Southeast Asia, what you think of these stories as well, or like if you heard it for the very first time when you were in Southeast Asia, what did you think of these stories? I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, please let us know.
Oh, I'm seeing a comment that you're highlighting.
Yeah, Lost in Malaysia, whoever you are, I kind of want to know who the narrator of Ghost Maps is, but I also kind of don't want to know because I think yes, exactly.
Boom.
Not knowing makes the experience better, right? Like that's why both of us are neither the narrators of Ghost Maps, because I believe that we believe that you will actually spoil the experience when you just show your face. There's not this sense of realism. Well, the stories are real, but like you lose this sense of like,
it kind of takes you out of the story if you know who he is, I guess.
Yeah.
But I also feel like we kind of did this, maybe subconsciously, as a kind of another tribute to Russell Lee.
Yes, it's subconsciously.
Yeah.
So the narrator is actually listening to us. So the narrator let the fans ask for it, and maybe we'll get you on the show, but we will not show your face. Don't worry, we will figure it out. And yeah. So what if the narrator was a ghost? Yeah, what if he was a ghost? What if?
Well, I would be very surprised. He's been recording with us all this time. Never told me once that he was a ghost. I would be a little bit upset.
It's a wasted opportunity that he's not a writer. If not, he would be a ghost writer.
Wow.
Jolene says, Juon scarred me for life. Yeah, what movie scarred me for life? Actually, Nang Nak. Yeah. That skull scene, oh my god, it always gets to me. Yeah, Nang Nak. We are reading the chat, Boti. It's just that we are a little bit slow because we are getting to that and telling stories.
Bolty, just to show that we were reading the chat, I did see your joke about how the ghost in the toilet was eating Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I was trying not to laugh while Carl was telling the story. But yes, I did see that joke.
We want your story too. Yes, we're going to get into that. I just did a story. If you missed some of you missed the ghost stories earlier, we will publish this maybe by next week for podcast version. So keep a lookout. And we also publish this on YouTube and Facebook. So yeah.
Right. Should I get to my story?
I
completely forgot I'm supposed to be telling a story as well.
That's like a major, but I mean, we love the fact that we're actually interacting with you guys. So
yeah. To be fair, I completely got lost in that as well.
Okay.
I am not going to tell my first ghost story because I'm saving that. Like, I've told Carl this before, and he completely understands that it's a very personal story, and I'm just waiting till I can find like the best way to tell it. But I will tell you my second supernatural experience. Interestingly enough, I was also 14. I also like how when you said, oh, 2 14-year-olds in a hotel, what could go wrong? That sounds exactly like the kind of thing a 14-year-old would say.
Yep.
It's like, oh yeah, what could go wrong? I was 14. I was at a house party. As far as I can recall, there was no alcohol down there. So all this happened completely clear-headed. I was at a house party, and it was one of those overnight house parties where, you know, when you're like 14, it's like, oh, we'll crash over this person's place and we'll spend all night talking and it'll be so deep, man. But yeah, it was late into the night. It was probably like 1 or 2 a.m. I don't want to say it's 3 a.m. because then it seems like, you know, I just specifically chose that number. But it was definitely it was late in the night, and I decided for some reason, I guess like everybody else was like talking or asleep, or like, you know, I was just not interested in the party at the time, but I didn't want to go home. So I went for a walk.
Oh.
And where the house party was, it was a condo along like a very, I won't say where exactly it was, but it was a condo along a somewhat infamous stretch of road. And it is, I mean, it's well lit enough at night, still incredibly creepy. So I decided to take a walk on the road, and like from the I'm trying not to like give visual directions because like some people might be listening on Clubhouse, but I passed by like a cross junction, and after I passed by the cross junction, I'm like near the rubbish area of a school. So at the rubbish area is not very well lit. Like even during the day, it's kind of like dark and gloomy. So at night, clearly I can't see anything beyond like the front of like the giant bins. And for some reason, I stop in front of that and I turn. And I look at the bins, and I look beyond the bins into like the darkness. And I see these 2 red eyes just glaring at me. And the eyes are like on level with me. Now, I'm not exactly the tallest person, as you can clearly tell by the height difference from here. But, you know, then it started growling. So, even though I'm not the tallest person in the world, when you hear an animal growl like that and its eyes are level of yours, you start to worry a little bit because why is this animal so big? And second of all, why is it growling at me? Now, I didn't get the best view of it because, most people in my position probably do the same thing, which is go, oh shit, and then turn around and start to run. It seemed like a big dog, I guess. And, if any of y'all have never been in Singapore, I assure you, as far as I know, no wolves in this country. So it like this hulking, wolf-like beast is chasing me, and I'm running, and I turn around and I see it chasing me. I can't really make out what it is. I know it looks wolf-like, and I'm running. Bear in mind, again, clear-headed. So I'm freaking out, and I'm running, and I reach that cross junction, and I go beyond the cross junction itself. And at that point, as I turn around beyond the cross junction, it's not there anymore. And I don't. At this point in time, the stupid thing to do, which is what I did, was stop and go, huh? Where'd it go? Thankfully and clearly, nothing happened to me after that. But that was my first. Well, that was my second, and definitely one of my more prominent ones. Definitely one of the most visceral ones, because I've had a couple of things, like I had a couple of other experiences, but none of them as like that hardcore as that. So yeah, that was my, well, that's the first story that I'm going to tell at the very least.
Yeah. Basically, you met the Wolfman of Hougang.
Well, I'm not going to say where it was. It could.
But,
it could have been.
It could have been. It could have been the Wolfman. So for non Singaporean friends, or for friends that don't know that it was an actual. I wouldn't say actual. It was an urban legend, right? That there was a wolf man in the northeastern part of Singapore. So maybe you met him. Maybe he went to the area that you were in. I don't know.
He took the bus.
I mean, he's a wolf, right? He could walk, or he could run.
Well, okay, fair enough.
And he was huge, right?
Apparently, well, as far as I can remember, he can run very fast.
Your story, but
No.
I'm just saying, like if there could be werewolves, supposedly in the States, why can't there be werewolves in Singapore?
Yeah.
Right? Globalization happened, right?
Yeah.
And it's not as if like spirits would actually abide by the physical realm. They could probably teleport something if they existed. So
I mean, I'm not gonna like spew all these curses.
I'm being very shame about it.
You're being very shame about it. I'm not gonna spew all these curses about my experience, because to quote one of our favorite films, What We Do in the Shadows, werewolves, not swearwolves.
Yeah, we are. I swear, but yeah.
But yeah, so that was my
it's scary. Like if you see red eyes.
The red eyes were bad enough. The getting chased by a beast, that was
Jesus.
That was the cherry on top of it. But the red eyes were enough
to
to make me,
you, right?
Yeah. No, but the red eyes were enough to make me poop my pants.
I didn't. No, I mean, I've heard you told these stories quite a few times, but I didn't know that you were 14 when that happened.
Oh yeah, I was 14 when that happened.
Jesus.
Which
Yeah.
14-year-olds.
So Lost in Malaysia said that, what if every story that was told on Ghost Maps was actually the narrator's encounter with the living? I want to know who you are, because you actually have a knack for storytelling, because that would be creepy as hell. Yeah.
I think Bolty had one more comment.
What, this one?
Oh, yes.
We are Hantu only fans.
Yeah.
If it only showcases us doing bloopers, maybe.
But we
have a very clean version of OnlyFans, which is Patreon. So patreon.com/wearehantu. So check us out if you want to support us. Quick plug: if you want to support us, by getting merch, redbubble.com/wearehantu. So these are really nice artworks. We might release more. So let us know.
I'm sorry, I'm very short, and this table is quite high, so you can't really see full t-shirt. But if you go to the Redbubble page, you can see it.
Yeah.
Do we want to check in with the chat?
Yeah, let's check in with the chat. So, wait. I mean, it's a lot of Jesus.
There's a lot of comments.
Oh, we just caught up like very slow. Sorry, guys. So there is
one from Ipo. I see.
No. I saw one. OnlyFans. Okay. So Gil Chong said that, do we have any team members that have the active third eye? No. We do not. But I must say that I am quite sensitive.
You are. I've seen you cry during movies.
I'm quite sensitive to the spiritual realm. I'm not religious, but I felt things like I mean, even as an adult, you know, they say if you're a kid, you're more, you know, you're more, because you barely left your mother's womb, right? So you have more attachment to the previous world, which is the spiritual world. That's the belief. So you are more sensitive. You can see, you're more sensitive. But if you're, as an adult, you could feel things when they are not right, then you are more spiritually inclined in that sense. And I am. Quick story. So you want to get story, just keep getting them from me by asking me this kind of questions, so I feed you with small stories. I had a chalet. Like chalet is, for the non-Asian or non-Singaporeans, is where you go
it's a resort,
to
basically.
some places in the country, and then you stay in one of those old houses and barbecue and have a good time. So we do that as Singaporeans. So we went to a chalet which is very, very near to Old Changi Hospital. This chalet is no longer around. It's on top of a hill. There's only 3 of them, and they are huge. So a couple of them, couple of friends, we went there, and there were only 8 of us, but the house could actually fit up to 20, so it was big. So I was sharing a room with my then girlfriend. Then the moment I entered the room with another friend who is even spiritually inclined, like he has the sense, like straight up. Like I'm like, I have the sense, but he's like, I have the sense. So the moment we step into the house, we're like, okay, this does not feel right. So things didn't really go out of control. I slept in the main bedroom with my then girlfriend, and then I had nightmares of the spirit that's living there. I think it could be a placebo effect. It could be just me freaking out and seeing the ghost in the. So I would say that I'm not as chicken shit as I was as an adult at that point, but I still opened all the creepy tall wardrobe because it was facing the room. So I opened all of them. Then we slept, right? So my dream was that she was standing inside the wardrobe talking to me. Leave now. I was like, no, I'm gonna stay here. We're just here for 3 days. Please give us some chance. And nothing happened lah. So I had that dream, and that dream kept reappearing over the course of that night. So I went back to see, it happened again. I went back to see, it happened again. I'm like, so I don't know what it was. I didn't have good sleep lah. Yeah, but that place is super creepy. I swear to God, I'm so glad that it's gone now. Yeah, I will never go back to that chalet. It's on top of a hill, just right beside Old Changi Hospital. Behind it is a military installation. So yeah, scary.
It's that's just the ultimate combo right there. It's an old place on a hill near Old Changi Hospital. Was that? I mean, I was gonna ask this next, but was that your scariest experience?
No, it was more
wow.
I mean, you go to these kind of places, you expect something that would happen, right?
Yeah.
You definitely, someone will get. It's the guy and I, we looked at each other, and then we were like, yeah, we just this place. But only the 2 of us knew. We didn't say anything because we didn't want to freak out the entire group. But yeah, we both had that sense. Yeah, but he had it more lah. So yeah, don't go to places near Old Changi Hospital. Apparently, it's really, really bad, according to our friends with the third eye. So anyway, Lost in Malaysia said, my favorite episode was the one from Ipoh, but that's because I'm a bit biased for my hometown Perak. Hey, always got love for our Malaysian neighbours, man.
I have to say, I love. I think it was probably one of our first, because we like we said, we only all the episodes are inspired by stories told to us, and we hadn't received Filipino stories for a little while. I think the first year was a lot of Singaporean and Malaysian stories and some Indonesian stories, and I think a bit of Thai, but we hadn't received any stories from Philippines. And we noticed that there's quite a few of our fans from the Philippines.
Yeah.
So the moment we had an episode that was set in the Philippines, the comment section went nuts.
Yeah.
we love you guys, and we love your
pride,
response to it.
yeah,
It was just like,
the
yes,
pride, man.
Philippines, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. The hometown bias, no, completely understand.
No. And thanks, Firdaus. I remember your Firdaus is the schoolboy, the boys' school.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
the
that's
rugby one.
the
Yeah.
rugby one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Sorry, I did see go back up. Balti said no feet pics. Well, if we do our OnlyFans,
Yeah.
and if Quentin Tarantino is following us on OnlyFans, maybe we'll get feet pics.
no,
Pics.
you do know that ghosts don't actually have feet, right?
Well,
Because that's the first thing that
They
take away.
don't.
Apparently, that's the first thing that feet goes away.
Yeah.
So no fake pics from them.
He
He said ghost fake pics. Yeah.
from ghost feet pics. Then no, that's not gonna happen.
Like
Then.
Nadia says, Russell Lee has done events but always mask up. I'm sorry to make this joke, but how timely, right? It's almost that he could tell the future. Sorry. So speaking of apologies,
Timeliness.
Roshan apologized for the suicide thing. No. I mean, I'm not angry at it. I'm just saying that there are certain boundaries that we don't cross because you don't know what's behind the veil, right? So if you want to find out, you start telling these stories, they might come after you.
Yeah.
I mean like supernatural forces, right?
Yeah, and
we don't want to, like what Wayne said earlier, we don't want to exploit them. We are more of telling the stories to preserve the history element of telling the stories, right?
Yeah.
And of course we do enjoy the stories and we
Yeah.
are fascinated by it. So
But yeah, like stuff like suicide and all that, it crosses a personal line that while people who share the stories might be comfortable with sharing those stories, I think for us at the very least, it's a line that we personally don't feel comfortable sharing those stories. So I don't think we've ever received submissions involving those kinds of stories.
We've not. But
yeah,
I mean, even if we did, I don't think we will publish them because if especially it happens. So fun fact that we are going on a show as guests. Our friends at Drunken Rapping Podcast. We actually appeared on their podcast. I think was it last year?
Late last year, I think.
Late last year, and we talked about ghost stories with them. Please check them out. We put it in the show notes later when we publish this episode.
Yep.
So there was one of the main hosts, Ernie, actually shared a very personal story, which I told him that maybe you shouldn't share it because it actually happened and you saw it. Maybe it will come after you if you know you. I guess like. Not blaming anyone, like quote unquote exploit or tell the stories because certain things are not meant to be told. And I've seen stuff that I would never ever put on Ghost Maps because they are so personal and they're so real. Right? Yeah. So moving on, Jen Lewis is asking if like military service is compulsory over here.
Yes. Well, it generally is. For military service is compulsory for men in Singapore. So that's why you get a lot of these stories from like the joke is like, if you're in your early 20s, chances are you've got like a bunch of national service ghost stories, and for a whole stretch of time the joke is that that's what most guys around the age talk about, national service and the ghost stories that happen to them in national service. But yeah, it's a compulsory thing in Singapore.
Yeah. And to set a little bit of context, because Singapore trains new recruits in an offshore island. So this island is known to be very, very haunted. Therefore, there are a lot of stories coming out there. There is still some cemeteries there. They built upon burial grounds. It's kind of similar to the American Indian burial grounds. So like sacred burial grounds, and there was like a deity that was supposed to bless that place for a certain reason, but the military had to move it because it was building a military place on it. So maybe it lost its protection. Therefore, that whatever's there is already set loose. Plus, there were no people living there. There used to be villagers, but they all moved out because of the military presence. So that is like the very short TLDR.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. They have Nadia said that they have a remake of Candyman recently.
Remake? I don't know whether it's a remake or a sequel, or kind of one of those things where it's both a remake and a sequel. Jordan Peele's involved, I think. Yeah.
Oh my god. Jolene just said Carl is definitely Shane, and our friend Donna agreed.
No, it's true.
I think we are like a mix of both.
You're very sweet and diplomatic for saying that, but we both know you're more Shane than Ryan.
But if I do see something wrong, I will run.
Yeah, but Shane's never seen anything wrong. He hasn't run yet. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a compilation on YouTube somewhere
Yeah.
where Shane gets really scared while filming BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah.
So that's the line that we don't cross. We don't act like Shane where we go. I mean, much love to you, Shane, but we don't go to haunted location and say, come and scratch me or attack me or something. We don't do that.
Nope, no.
Yeah, we don't do that.
I won't even go to haunted locations or creepy locations, as Kyle can testify.
Jen says that the visuals are hauntingly beautiful. I need to set a little bit of context. Actually, it's a team effort. I and another camera operator, YC, and my really, really good friend, RQ, he will drive us out to the haunted locations, and YC and I will shoot together. So a lot of effort, and we always shoot at night. And I'm talking about like after 10 p.m. So some of these locations are actually haunted.
It is a team effort, yes.
It is a team effort.
I'm just not part of that team.
Yeah, and RQ is actually spiritually strong. He has a very strong faith, so he's able to protect us. So even though we are like in terms of believing, but we do take precautions when it comes to going against this kind of thing. Roshan says that I actually like to watch the YouTube version than the Spotify. I use YouTube when I'm trying. Interesting. That's really interesting. And that's that's nice to know.
Bolty's giving us a play-by-play of what's going on in his house.
Yeah, he says that he ran out of his house, ran through the house because he got scared looking in the dust. Usually 9 out of 10, there's nothing there. 9 out of 10. So hopefully this is not the one.
To be fair, Bolty, I think he was trying to get his milk, and apparently he got his milk. So Bolty, we're proud of you. Well done.
So Team Simon is asking about the Changi Hospital story with the production team. Did the guy actually commit suicide in real life? Sorry for the stupid question again. Team Simon, there's no stupid question. There's always questions.
Yeah.
No, the story, he didn't die. What?
I think we made a lot of insinuations and a lot of hints and everything, but we kept it quite vague.
No, he didn't die. He just went missing.
And that again, it's one of those things where a lot of those elements, some of them are dramatized versions of it. A lot of the stories, that's why we say they're not based on true stories, they're inspired by. So some of those elements might have been from the story itself, some have been from us, but a lot of it is
that part is somewhat true.
Yeah.
So like when people go through a very traumatic experience, like if you see an apparition for the first time in your life, it actually destroys whatever belief that you have that they actually exist. That happened to me when I witnessed my first possession, like right in my face. I saw it happen, and at that point I was actually making ghost map stories already, and I was going with the maybe they're there, maybe they're not there, but I saw it with my own eyes. I'm like, nope. And this is one of the stories that I will not talk about, but I can talk about that me actually seeing it actually changed the way that I look at things, and it really changed me. I couldn't sleep that night, and I really hope not to experience something like that again, as much as I'm ashamed. So Jen, thank you so much. She says that she has learned so much about the culture of us, and she has to Google some to understand, which is awesome. But do join us for our next live at 13th of June. Every 13th of the month we'll be live, 9 onwards till maybe 11. So if you want to learn more about culture, either horror or just join us or follow us at We Are HANTU.
I see Jen, you also followed up with Hungry Ghost Festival is new for me. It's one of those things where I think for us it's that specific time of the year where we feel like we have to as ghost maps, and as something that I want to say, it's what religion is it specifically, Carl?
Hungry Ghost?
Yeah.
It's both Buddhist and Taoism.
Taoist, right?
It's both.
But that's the thing, so it's one of those things where it sort of transcends the actual religion that it comes from and becomes a cultural thing. So in Singapore, I was not raised Taoist or Buddhist, but I was raised in another religion, and my mum, when I was growing up, during Hungry Ghost, mom would say, don't stay out too late, okay? And then you make sure you come home, you have a shower and all that. I was like, yeah, but that's what's going on here? I thought that's a different religion from ours. So it transcends and it's kind of become like a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Or at least in Singapore. I don't know about like anywhere else in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So for us, that's kind of and that's when, it generally is August, September, right, Carl?
Yeah, it depends because
Yeah.
it follows the Chinese
Yeah.
calendar, so the lunar calendar. So
Yeah.
actually, Hungry Ghost, we're definitely doing something special.
Yeah.
Hungry Ghost month is our special month.
It is.
because it is in the mood of horror. It's kind of like Halloween on steroids.
Yeah. I mean, last year we did like weekly episodes. So
Yeah.
normally what we do
Hopefully
is
we can do that.
yeah. So normally what we do is like like we said earlier on, like every second and fourth Thursday of the month. But for Hungry Ghost Month last year, we were like, no, let's do it every week. Like we need to mark this occasion as a team that as a show that focuses on Southeast Asian horror.
Yeah.
And just us coming from Singapore, we're like, no, we have to mark this occasion. So
Yeah.
we'll do something special again this year. Like whether it's
We'll let
weekly
you
or
guys
what,
know.
we'll see what it is. Yeah,
Donna asked Wayne to actually share about the Exorcist movie. We actually
we did.
Yeah, so please listen to us on Spotify.
Yes, the story will be immortalized so everybody can find out how my brother traumatized me when I was 5. Any other? Because like I like how the plan was thrown out the window wonderfully because we've had so much interaction with you guys.
I wouldn't say throughout. I mean, we are like
it's adjusted.
Just want to say hi to one of the listeners on Clubhouse. Hi, Roy. Thanks for listening to us on Clubhouse. You're the only one left for Horror Story on Clubhouse.
Hi, Roy.
There's a bunch of us on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
So let's see some of the comments. Wait. You guys should invest in Indian stories. They are pretty terrifying. We do have Indian stories in it's just that we don't because Singapore is a multicultural society, so we don't really point out this is an Indian. I guess we point out this is Southeast Asian stories.
Yeah.
And just so happened that this person who actually experienced this is perhaps of Indian descent. Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten stories outside of Southeast Asia. So I think we had at least one story submitted to us from India, I think, and we're waiting on that one because we also feel like, you know what, the focus should be on the Southeast Asian stories. Quite a number of our stories have come specifically from Indian people who live in Singapore, or specifically Malay people who live in Singapore. So our focus, I mean, the show is called Ghost Maps. So a lot of the focus is on the region itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the race of the person,
it doesn't
while
matter.
it might play a part,
I mean,
it's more the region than anything else.
It could be he could be asking for like the creatures or the entities. Yeah, I mean, if we do meet some, I mean, in our stories we would actually share.
Yeah, and again, it's all dependent on who submits their stories and the stories that we get from people as well. So like we said, all of our stories have been stories from people that we know or people who have submitted.
Yeah.
None of these stories have been anything that both of us made up, completely made up. There's always some element of...
We will never do that, because there's always plenty of horror stories in
I
Southeast Asia.
think at most it's stuff that's happened to us specifically, but that's about it. So yeah, I mean, if who was the one that asked for Indian...
I think it was Bolti.
Bolti, if you know any particular stories that revolve around Indian mythology, Indian creatures and stuff like that, please share it with us. We'd love to hear them as well.
Yeah, I remember reading about one from Russell Lee. Was really scary. It's about this guy who prayed to like the evil god or something, and then it ended up with him being disemboweled. It was terrifying. I mean, reading it as a 12-year-old kid, oh my god, So
shall we? One last comment. Shall we just jump ahead?
No,
there's a whole
I mean,
bunch of stuff as well.
So Lost in Malaysia says that he or she has encountered this period. I hope it's a norm for you right now. I can't say I feel for you, but I will be afraid to hang out with you because I will never know what you are looking behind me. You know what are you seeing behind me? So
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So he also said that is this live going to be saved? Yes, it will be saved, and you will probably be cut down and vulgar free and stuff. Inspiration for the Chalet episode exposed. No, actually, it's not based on my personal experience. It was another story from our friends.
Yeah.
So yep, it's not that story. Maybe we could adapt it. We'll see.
I feel like, Carl, that makes a perfect segue before we get back to the fan comments. Carl, what was your scariest? We know what your first one was. What was your scariest horror experience?
Okay, my scariest horror experience is it is a really tough question.
You know what's funny is we planned all this ahead of time, but even then also we've been thinking about it.
Yeah, it is a okay. I have 2 points. I know it's a little bit unfair to say 2 points.
It's cheating a bit, that's fine.
One is horror, one is horror in real life, but I don't think it was supernatural, but in hindsight it could be. So the first one was when I was just going out for cycling, near at night cycling alone in the eastern part of Singapore where there's a lot of beaches, right? So you roughly know where. So I reached this point where it's a bunch of old colonial houses, and I've always cycled through that area, and I was listening, and I clearly remember I was listening to Taylor Swift, right? Judge me, I don't care.
Okay.
So cycling and Taylor Swift, and it was like what we said, like universal thing. I smelled frangipani, like the moment I made a turn towards one of the colonial houses, I smelled frangipani, and I immediately did a 3-point turn with my bicycle because I was cycling on the road, so 3-point turn. Dangerous, yeah, but 3-point turn, and I sped out of there. And the smell followed me for a while, like at least like 2-3 minutes before I couldn't smell it. And I looked around, there were no flowers. So it was really strange. And that kind of smell is really, really like it's in your face kind. It's almost like a very, very strong perfume. So that was one of the scary because seeing it, I don't know, like Lost in Malaysia, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. Seeing it versus hearing it and not seeing and smelling it is very, very terrifying. So I thought it was following me at some point, so I quickly went home. I scrapped all my plans to cycle, went home straight, showered, go to bed. Because everything is resolved by showering and going to bed.
Yes, of course. That's the universal way of defeating ghosts, showering and going to bed. Can I just jump in before you get to your second story? I'm gonna tell my scariest experience because it does tie into that. Yeah. Where like what Carl was saying, where it's a case of sometimes not seeing it is just scarier than seeing something. I think that's my scariest experience because I was at again, it was another like gathering at a friend's place. It wasn't a house party, it was a gathering at a friend's place. And he'd gotten all the food and everything, so I was like, hey, I'll wash dishes. And everybody was heading out for like a smoke and everything lah. So I was like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll wash dishes. Now his place at the time was this creepy old condo, like super creepy, and the kitchen was narrow, and there's a back room, and in front of the kitchen sink, there's a window that faces out to a very dark garden. Like at night, you can barely see anything. You can see like shapes of trees and plants and stuff like that, but that's about it. So it's one of those things where I was washing dishes and trying not to look up, because when you look up you see directly outside into the garden, which the darkness itself in and of itself is terrifying. But while I was trying not to do this, I also had this really strong feeling that somebody was watching me from behind. I kept turning around to see. I kept doing this. I was like, and I kept doing that. It was almost like every time I did it, I felt less tense. But then after a while, that feeling would come back.
Yeah.
So I did this a couple of times. Didn't finish washing the dishes. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I walked out to the lobby where everybody was like hanging out and talking and like smoking and stuff like that. I walked out to the lobby and I sat down and I didn't say anything. I sat down and lit a cigarette. My friend who stays at the place, he looked at me and went, "Do you finish washing dishes?" And I just went, "Nope." And he had this look on his face like, okay, I understand why. Don't worry about it. I completely get it. I just sat down there, and clearly I'm not the quietest person around, but I was quite quiet for a little while after that. Just a couple of cigarettes, and I was like, yeah.
Just one of those. And I mean, we don't condone smoking cigarettes. I mean, we don't.
I've quit since
both
then.
of us no longer smokes, but at that point, I think the cigarette helped.
Oh no, definitely. Yeah, no. That was
It's a classic horror movie.
That was a much needed smoke after that. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like that's why I had to jump in, because it's one of those things where
No, you sense it, right?
yeah,
Jesus,
and it's like, I mean, again, we'll talk about a lot of this later on, but like that's kind of why it's one of the many reasons why Ghost Maps is a podcast, is because you know that sense of, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of horror movies that do jump scares very well, but a jump scare is the thing that you see, and in that moment it frightens you. But for us, it's one of those things where we want to tell you something, and then you're going to wake up at like 2 a.m. thinking about it and going, oh, those bastards, I can't sleep now.
Yeah.
That's the kind of horror that we want to do as well. So
atmospheric.
Yeah.
And lingers.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It lingers. And the fact that, you know, jumping back to your story, and the fact that he was super casual about it was extremely creepy.
Yeah.
And we know the guy. And fun fact, he actually contributed to a lot of the earlier episodes, like episodes 0 all the way to maybe episode 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stories were actually based off him. And his story is actually adapted in one of the episodes. So I'm not going to tell you guys which episode, but it does have
I think
apartment in it.
Yeah, I think you see, now you just have to listen to all the episodes. But I'm quite sure when you hear it, you can kind of figure it out as well.
Yeah. So
let's go back to your other scariest.
Okay, so
story.
the first one, the scariest one, it was probably like 6-7 years back.
Yeah.
But this story is actually it's about 3 years ago. Because of my occupation, actually, I'm a filmmaker, so I direct and produce TV commercials and content, right? So, I used to travel a lot. So I traveled to Japan, Okinawa, to work on a documentary. So Okinawa, for those that are unsure, Okinawa actually suffered one of the deadliest attacks from the U.S. Army during World War II when they landed, and actually a lot of people died, and the Japanese Imperial forces actually, you know, forced their people to jump off cliffs and stuff. Like it was quite bad lah. So it was leveled. Apparently, it was leveled, and until today, like it has a very strong U.S. military presence. So I mean, I learned of all that from going there to make the documentary. So, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's an island on its own, much bigger than Singapore, in the middle of Japan and Taiwan. So it has a very unique climate. It kind of feels like you're kind of in Singapore, but much cooler. And it's all mountains and hills, so it's very dark at night. So I went up to one of the mountains with my client. So my client drove us around, and it was dark roads. There's no lights. So this was like mountainous area. So we followed the GPS as much as we could, follow the local maps. And my client can actually speak very fluent Japanese. So we went up to one of those windmills areas to shoot some scenes for the documentary at night. And this was raining. And in Japan, about 6 p.m. is dark, like really dark. So we were there at about 9 and filming and getting some shots done, and then it started pouring. So we left the mountain the top of the mountain with the windmills downwards. So my client actually wanted to take a detour to shorten the time down the mountain back to our place, which was on another mountain. Then she saw an old road, and the GPS was telling her, okay, take this way. This old road, this old service road can lead back to the main, to down the downhill. So she took it, and I had a bad feeling. I was like, this is not gonna end well. I told her, no, maybe we shouldn't take this because it looks abandoned. There's like grass. But we were driving a pretty big family vehicle. So she drove anyway, and guess what happened next? The car got stuck on one of the big drains. But it was a road just underused, like overgrown grass and stuff. So one of those underdeveloped, underused road instead of the main mountain road. So the car got stuck, lashed into the drain, and you could see, because it's a mountain, right? So if you see on the right is off the mountain. But it's not the cliffside, it's like a hill all the way down. So if you were to fall, you will roll all the way down to the end of the mountain. So probably die lah. So I did not realize like how dangerous it was. I was like, okay, so there's only 2 of us. So somebody has to get off the car to go and, get the car out of the ditch. So I got off the car, and she was still trying to rev the car out. So I was trying, dumb millennial. I was trying to lift the car out of the position. I was like, I will try my best. I use all my strength, and I couldn't. So we were stuck. We were stuck in the mountains of Okinawa. I don't know if we should call them mountains. Okay, I guess mountains because they are quite high. Mountains of Okinawa in the middle of night, 12 a.m. all the way till like 3 a.m. until we got help. Our friends from Japan from Okinawa tried to help us. Their car got stuck as well. So they had to call another car from the main township in Okinawa, which I forgot the main township. I forgot the name township. So it's where all the airport is at. The airport and the town is at. So we stayed in the middle of Okinawa, where it's all the mountains and all the resorts and stuff. So they had to bring in someone from town. So it took an hour to come. So I stayed there and talked to the guy. And throughout that whole experience, I was not scared. And it did not sink into my mind that, a lot of people died here. There's a lot of spirits here, if there are spirits, right? So could this be the doing of spirit? I don't know. But if not, why would the GPS ask you to go on the road? And the road obviously is not maintained for probably the past 10 years. So why is it on the GPS? It's really strange, right? I did not realize that until I got back to Singapore. Like the severity of it. And either of us could have died because the car could have just flipped and then went downhill. Everybody bye-bye. So we took all my equipments, and actually we left the car there and then walked down the really creepy road. And I think the both of us were scared, but at the same time we were like, actually it's quite calming. It's like going to the cemetery at night. It's scary because you know that there are spirits there, but at the same time it's very calming, very peaceful. Yeah, I don't know if anyone have been there. Don't go there to provoke the dead, but so that is a story. I wouldn't say it's supernatural, but it's scary. At that point I was like, shit.
Kyle's told me the story before. That's why because he said he's not sure whether it's supernatural or not.
Yeah.
I felt confident in making the very lame joke. GPS, ghostly positioning system.
Jesus.
Yeah. Alright, so many comments.
Let's go into comments.
Sorry we're taking too long to reply, guys, but lots of comments.
Yes. Hi Zane.
Hi Zane.
Ras Wong says that how do you find this haunted location? Because of my job, I need to know a lot about abandoned locations to film them. A lot of commercials are actually filmed in abandoned locations. Dramas are filmed in abandoned, documentaries are filmed in. So I have that edge. But also, I used to be an avid urban explorer, so I've been to a lot of all these haunted places. Maybe I'll share my story on how I got coerced by a spirit into not doing urban exploration anymore. I wouldn't say coerced, I would say warned. He didn't tell me do not do it. He just showed me his face, and I was like, okay, nope, I'm not gonna do it anymore. So
that's a good way. That's a good way of
that's a good
discouraging
way.
you. Yeah.
So my house is still haunted. The wife of the house passed away due to the. I'm sorry for that. You probably need some help.
Yes.
Boti.
Specific help. Yes.
So Shashi's Khan. I'm sorry if I butcher your name. Do you know how to pronounce it?
Shashikan. I think. I'm sorry. We might not be pronouncing it correct.
Yeah, butchered it. Best episode is Changi Hotel. Changi Hospital.
Yeah.
Third Eye is Avnish said Third Eye is the best eye to us. Well, you all have Menangal stories, Zain said, in your pockets.
Menangal stories, is it?
Maybe. It's
quite slight tangent off Ghost Maps, but it's quite interesting because I'm currently working on a book. Like I said at the start of the show, I'm working on a prose/comics thing with the artist Benjamin Chi. That's called Work-Life Balance. It'll be out in 2022. From the wonderful folks at Difference Engine, and there will be a Manananggal in that. In fact,
this guy writes book. He writes book.
I do write books, yes.
Yeah.
In fact, the Manananggal will be one of the one of the main characters in the book itself.
Yeah.
So,
But if we do come across one for Ghost
oh,
Maps,
oh, definitely,
we definitely put it there.
Definitely, yes.
So, Shannon how do you pronounce it?
Shannon Sutesh, I believe.
Sorry.
If we're mispronouncing this, we're very sorry.
More content. Okay. We went into this, but we need to explain again because it takes a lot of time for us to actually source out horror stories and convert some of our fan stories. Do submit your stories if you do have one. hantu.com/contact. So fill in the contact form and submit.
Hantu.sg?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hantu.sg.
Hantu.sg/contact to submit your ghost stories to us if you want us to feature ghost stories. We do vet the stories to see if they are real, and after that we will go through a scripting process, and then we have to produce them to the highest quality possible. That's why you are able to sleep with them, because they sound like this.
Horror ASMR.
So so unfortunately, as of now, the resources available to us are not ready for us to actually do it weekly, but we are more than happy to do it weekly if we have more supporters on our Patreon.
Patreon.com/wearehantu.
Yeah.
Carl, just show them the t-shirt, man.
Yeah. So
your t-shirt. Go ahead.
So or buy our merch, right?
Well, there you go.
The more resources we have, the more episodes we can put up, because right now we are actually just doing it out of our own time and stuff.
Yeah.
So appreciate the support.
Yes.
Can you explain the smell you're talking about, and why is it disconcerting? So this is our friend from the US. The smell is like a flower. So the legend goes like, if you smell a very strong flower like frangipani is a type of flower, specifically frangipani, at night, it means that there is a spirit near you. Most likely Miss P. Which is our version of the vampire. I'm not gonna say it out because we're based in a very notoriously location. Our studio is based in a notoriously infamous creepy location in Singapore. So we're not gonna take our chances, because when you mention her name, she will actually come. So let's just play it safe.
It's one of those things where,
so like, if you smell that it means that she's nearby.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could go either way. It could go like you smell rotten flesh, then they are very far, and if you smell the flowers, that means they are very, very close.
I could never remember.
It's one of. I mean, it goes both ways. So I hope that answers your question. Yep. Boti, can you tell the narrator to say hi, Boti, please? Yes. Once we set up our OnlyFans page. Just joking. Just joking. Ads. Ads. Motanga. I hope I'm not butchering the name.
It's Montague.
Yeah. Let's just hope it's Montague. Hi from the Philippines here. Hi from Singapore. Abnish says, who is the narrator? You will never find out, or you will find out. But if you guys ask long enough, hard enough, we might get him on the show as a guest, but we will not show his face. Nicolez Phua says that jump scares are cheap. Love Ghost Maps. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Yeah. I'm glad that you actually understand.
Yeah.
Little Sister Goes in Condo episode. Yeah, that one is it's quite.
Well, no, I think Nicole trying to guess which episode my.
Oh, right. Yes, you're correct.
I was gonna go maybe, but
yeah. No,
so if you have to start from one episode, I guess that's the one also lah.
Yeah. Will dead air will be dead air like Ghost Maps? I don't know what do you mean by that, but I guess are you asking that will it be a regular show? Yes, it will be a regular show every 13th of the month. We will be live from 9 p.m. onwards till probably 11. We'll try to talk as much as possible to not repeat ourselves. So but if you enjoy this content, let us know. We will make more of this. I mean, but it will be more casual like this.
Yes.
And then less scripted. It will be me and Wayne sharing ghost stories and
we're
origins of ghost stories. Yeah.
But also, like we were saying, I think just in case you missed it at the start, we're gonna try to get guests on the show. So other podcasters, maybe YouTubers or stuff like that, we'll try to get guests onto the show and they will share their stories as well. Like we said, if there's anybody you want to see on the show, let us know. Let those people know as well. Tell them, hey, there's these guys doing like, great ghost stories.
Yeah.
Patting ourselves on the back. Great ghost stories. Do you want to go on their show and stuff like that? So yeah, just reach out to them.
Yeah. We'll have exciting guests and we will announce them soon. So Shannon said that we could have used the jack from the boat. Yeah, unfortunately there was no jack. We had like a tool, but we tried. It did not work. Like, two adults didn't manage to get, and it was pretty deep. The drain is like super deep and super narrow. So I mean, what's gone is gone. So that's why there could be a chance that it was supernatural. JJ Lee, how do you differentiate between stories you can tell and cannot tell, since the starting point is to tell real ghost stories? Every single story that we told is real, right? Happened to someone at some point in their life. How do we differentiate them? Whether to tell is if it's personal or as actually someone demise from it, or as someone really really suffered a loss from it. So for example, like if someone has witnessed a suicide and wants to tell a story about how that suicide has affected, we probably wouldn't take them because this is something that's very real. Yeah.
I mean, some of the stories have elements that, and I don't think it's happened that often, but there's some stories that have elements that we don't feel comfortable talking about. But I mean, like we said, a lot of these stories, all our episodes are inspired by real stories, and by inspired we mean that there are certain elements of the story that come from the person who's telling them. Yes, we dramatize it. Yes, we add our own storytelling flair to it. But the core of the stories are there. So it's a lot of the times we'll look at the stories and we'll think to ourselves, can we maintain the core of the story without including like this particular element? If we can, we'll go for it. If we can't, then so be it. We can't use the story. But I think that's how it's almost a personal gauge for both of us, where we actually just look at the story and we decide, you know what, neither of us are comfortable with telling this, we won't tell it, or you know what, we can figure out a way to tell the story where we're comfortable with it, and then we find a way to tell that story.
Basically, don't exploit. Like what Lost in Malaysia said, don't mess with the dead. Because
absolutely
if you mess
not.
with them, they mess. Yeah. I feel something. I mean, you can see, right? Like maybe you want to turn around and see. It could be your friend. There is someone behind Win. Yeah, right. Nice try. Yeah. Don't worry. So, will there be any stories set in the hospital? If there are any stories that are actually from the hospital, we will actually share.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so far it's only from Old Changi Hospital.
Yeah, and I think also another thing, like we said with the Pulau Tekong story, if it's from a place that's famous for its ghost stories, we wanna try to find a story that hasn't already been told like many times before already, because you've heard that. Chances are you've heard that story, and we want to give you something that's different from what you've normally heard about like a certain place. So if we can find stories about, like, say, Old Changi Hospital that no one else has heard before, or a certain spin on it, then we'll be happy to tell those stories.
Yeah, so Lost in Malaysia said that if the car continued in Okinawa, it could have been worse. Yeah, it could be my angels watching over me, you know, like.
I do love how this has turned from like slightly from horror, but also to like car maintenance now.
Oh yeah, car maintenance, right? I mean, a lot of the times, weird things happen, and you know, like you can't fix them on spot. Even in production, you know, I will share in future episodes. I will share about my experience on set. You know, when I'm making a film or I'm making a commercial where weird things happen, like out of the blue, like unexplainable things. And there are some practices that we as you know, like in the film industry, we actually practice here in Southeast Asia that are pretty weird for people who have not experienced it, just so because we are actually very superstitious. Because when you are dealing with millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment and you know, budget just to make one shoot day work, you know, everything has to go right and everything can go wrong, even with the supernatural. So we try to play on the safe side lah. Yeah.
I started chuckling to myself because I saw Roshan's comment.
Hey, Roshan, you gotta continue working on your assignment after this, okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
because we're gonna end this in 10
Yeah, about 10
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, but really appreciate you guys coming
Yes.
out to support us on our first episode, and there'll be more for the 13th. Every single month, 13th, we will come on live. Maybe we'll find another eerie date if the response is really, really good.
Yep.
But until then, Dead Air will be live at 9 p.m. on 13th of each month. 9 p.m. GMT 8, which is Singapore time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think like before we close out, I think we can touch a little bit of. Oh wait.
Thanks, Anand.
Ooh.
It's Anand.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anand. Please listen to our new
Oh, yes,
episode,
please.
because Thursday, every second Thursday and fourth Thursday of each month, we'll have new episodes for Ghost Match, which is our narrative horror podcast.
It's a great time for you to be tuning in for the first time because the new episode is live.
Yeah, it's live at 10 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, like Kyle said, we'll be wrapping up in about 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
I think before we go, we want to touch a little bit about why. I mean, at this point in time, we've kind of touched on it quite a bit.
Of it, yeah.
But I mean, just almost to summarize, I guess, why we started Ghost Maps. I mean, Kyle, do you want to take this one or should I?
I think we can both take this.
Yeah.
Why I started Ghost Maps was simply very, very it's out of necessity, right? I'm sure you guys follow other horror channels. I am like I mentioned, I've loved horror since as a kid. And there has been this rise of US horror storytellers on YouTube since 2015 onwards. I've followed them since, like, we were talking about Corpse Husband, Lazy Masquerade, Darkness Prevails, even Kawabanwa. Kawabanwa, she talks about Japanese horror stories, but there has never been a Southeast Asian one. And I've always wondered, like, what would Southeast Asia horror stories...
English language, at least.
Yeah, English language, yeah. So it was out of necessity because I really, really wanted to enjoy the stories. And I guess the process actually made it even better because I get to make them and listen to them on a different perspective. So that's my reason for starting Ghost Maps. What about you?
I mean, for me, it kind of... I remember Carl and I had this discussion before we started Ghost Maps. And before this was even like an idea, we were both lamenting about the fact that... Because, like I say, Carl's a massive horror fan in terms of like the media of it, the horror films, the ghost stories, as you can tell, the horror podcast as well. But my entry point into horror, aside from watching The Exorcist when I was 6 years old or 5 years old, was the fact that, and again, like it's a cultural thing where we tell these stories growing up, like all of us. Around our ages, I say ages because there is an age difference between the two of us. But around our ages, we grew up with these stories. Like our older siblings or our cousins or our friends would be telling us all these stories, and it's something. It was this oral tradition that predated us, and went back to, again, our older siblings' times. The previous generations, our uncles and all that. And it's something that has been so much a part of our culture, but we felt that it wasn't as prominent as it used to be.
Yeah.
Like people are still telling ghost stories. They were still keeping up the oral tradition of telling ghost stories, but it wasn't as prominent as it used to be. So I think we both also felt that, hey, let's do our part to keep this alive. And it's one of the reasons why Ghost Maps is a podcast as well, is because it's part of that whole tradition to tell these stories orally, to like it's something like I know people who like listen to Ghost Maps while they're going on a run, or people who are sitting at home, or even some people who are with their friends or their family and they'll listen to Ghost Maps, and that's great, and that's how we want it to, how we want people, how we love for people to consume it, which is just to help keep up that whole oral storytelling of ghost stories,
which is what we are doing right now.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for so much for the support.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna address some comments, last few comments before we leave. So Team Simon asks, do we get scared or worried when you remember these stories suddenly in a scary place? Not really, but only with stories that we've actually lived through. So like, sometimes I pass by that area where I smell the frangipani, and I do get the ghost bumps. Like, this is where I actually heard. I mean, actually smelled that smell. So do you?
I mean, when I retell the stories, not really, but mostly because like the places where these things happen to me, I haven't, not by choice, but like just out of like, this is the way life has taken me. I haven't revisited those places in years. And so I guess if I go and revisit them, maybe it'll stir up some familiar feelings. But no, I don't, I won't say it's a fondness for telling these stories, but there's a weird sentimentality to it because like I said, this is, I mean, not to get all deep and like, sappy about it and everything, but all these stories, our individual stories, the stories of our fans, the stories of our friends and our families and all that, they're all part of this huge ongoing tapestry of stories that we've had in this region. So sentimentality isn't the right word, but something along those lines, maybe.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Win.
Yeah.
So Lost in Malaysia said that the local story gave me a sense of warmth and comfort. Yeah, it's exactly that what he just said. Sense of familiarity. When I was away for overseas assignments, I actually listened to local horror. I mean, there were no ghost maps back then but I listened to local Chinese horror podcasts. So yeah, Nicole's Ghost Maps and Kawabanga. Yeah, maybe we can get her on. I'm actually a fan of her work. I do have some of her books. She actually sells her books of her podcast. Maybe that's something that Ghost Maps could do. Sell horror books. Maybe. So maybe you should go and ask her. Like, you want to join Ghost Maps on Dead Air? So Roshan asked, quick question, do you guys watch the show Ghost Adventures by Zach Bagans? Yes, I do. I used to watch them until they changed. Like, it was initially the three guys until they changed it, until it became really, really fake. And the taste really changed for me because I'm not into ghost hunting, because if they are real, things come back to you. And apparently Zach Bagans was haunted by a demon for years. So yeah, they may not, even if you're not afraid of them, they can get to you by getting to your family. So yeah, might want to think about it. I experienced Nicole said that she experienced something in Labrador Park once and never went back since. Yeah, Labrador Park is very, very fun. I
used to work around there.
Yeah.
So for a very short stint. So I'm glad it was a short stint.
Yeah. So Avnish said that Ghost Maps not only tell about horror, but tell about Southeast Asian culture. Yes.
You got it, man.
Yeah.
You got it.
So a book I recommend is Taiping Tales of Terror. I actually heard of that book. Taiping is a place in Malaysia, if I'm not wrong. So yes, I will actually check them out. I do read a lot of horror content. Definitely Russell Lee, definitely some local literature and Southeast Asian literature, as well as Stephen King. Gotta love Stephen King, man.
I just want to jump in there since we're recommending like horror books and everything. Like I said, I don't consume as much as Kyle in terms of the horror stuff. And you certainly don't go out on the shoots with Kyle as well. But I was watching a wonderful lecture by the fantastic Singapore-based author Victor R. Ocampo. And he did this wonderful lecture, I think it was with Singlet Station, on speculative fiction, the history of speculative fiction in Singapore, and he's got quite a sizable section of it where he talks about horror in Singapore and horror stories in Singapore. And he mentioned a politician, a businessman, and an author, Othman Wok.
Oh yeah, Othman Wok, legend.
If I'm remembering this right, if I'm not wrong, he was the first person to write stories that were specifically set in Singapore, which was at the time part of Malaya. So Othman Wok's books are, if I'm not wrong, they're mostly out of print. However, from what I gleaned from the comment section of that lecture that Victor gave, Epigram Books with Ng Yishing. Ng Yishing's editing a best-of collection of Othman Wok's ghost stories. If I'm not wrong, it's called A Mosque in the Jungle. It'll be out from Epigram Books next month or this month. I can't remember
I know
exactly
what I'm buying.
Yeah, but that's definitely coming out. And Singapore has a rich history. Southeast Asia has a rich history of ghost stories, and Othman Wok is a huge foundation of it, which I wasn't even completely aware of until fairly recently. So I'm definitely getting that.
Othman Wok, think of Othman Wok as the predecessor to Russell Lee.
Yeah,
something like that, right? Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Probably much much. Yeah.
Probably less cheesy, but yeah.
So with that, we would like to end our Dead Air, first episode of Dead Air, with a call to action. So
Yes.
Wayne,
I will be doing this. I'll try to do it in my best impersonation of the narrator. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. New episodes of Ghost Maps go online every second and fourth Thursday of the month on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. To make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe now and follow us on social media at We Are HANTU. That's one word. Carl, show the t-shirt.
we are Hantu.
We Are HANTU. WeAreHantu. We Are HANTU. If you would like to share your own stories that could inspire future episodes of Ghost Maps, you can reach us through the contact form on our website, hantu.sg, or message us directly through Facebook and Instagram. As you can clearly tell, you can also buy official merchandise like these t-shirts. We've got tote bags, we've got masks, and they're all on Redbubble, or you could be one of our supporters on Patreon. We would really appreciate that because every little bit does help us to do more episodes of Ghost Maps. Again, search for We Are HANTU. I'm not going to spell it out for you again, just in case I misspell it, and that would be embarrassing. Carl, show the t-shirt. There you go.
And then let's do the sign off.
Yes. Do you want to do sign off?
Let's do it together.
Okay.
Okay.
One,
And
two,
2, 3.
three. And remember, just because they're
they're
stories, it doesn't mean they're not true.